It is the summer of 1926. Gertrude Ederle sails to Europe to make another attempt at swimming the English Channel. For this swim, she makes two significant changes. First, Thomas Burgess will coach her. He is one of the 5 men who successfully made the Channel swim. Second, she insists that her father and sister Margaret help her train, and later be on the tugboat that will follow her during the attempt.
And of course, my sister Meg was always with me. She was my greatest inspiration. She says, come on, Trudy, you must keep practicing, you know. You're going to try to swim this channel.
As Gertrude prepares for the swim, Margaret makes 2 innovations. She designs the first 2-piece bathing suit, giving Gertrude more mobility in her stroke.
She was getting irritated from training, you know. So my mother cut the bathing suit in half. And it was the first 2-piece bathing suit. The other one were the goggles. They had some optical professional make up the goggles. First 1-piece goggles. The only thing is they couldn't get that thing waterproof. So it was only a few hours before the swim that they finally managed to make it waterproof with wax.
The night before the swim, Margaret watches the wax dripping down their dinner candles. She decides to use the wax around the edges of the goggles to create a waterproof seal to Gertrude's face. August 6, 1926, 7 o'clock in the morning. Gertrude Ederle sets out from the shores of Cap Grinet, France, in her second attempt to swim the 21 miles to Dover, England. Her father, her sister Margaret, and her coach will follow her on the tugboat Alsace. Before the swim, Gertrude had her father make a promise to her.
The promise here is, after the first attempt, Trudy comes out. My grandfather asks her, Trudy, could you have made it? She goes, Pop, I know I can make it. Somewhere between that point and this next swim, they make an agreement. She says, Pop, don't take me out of the water unless I ask to be taken out. Trudy, but if you're in trouble, Pop, you have to promise that you won't do that. They shake on it. They agree. During the swim, twice my Aunt Margaret said my grandfather would have pulled Trudy out of the water if not for that promise.
In order to avoid physical contact with her during the swim, they would provide her food attached to the end of a pole. If her coach or Margaret feels that she is swimming too fast, they will sing songs to her, and she will stroke to the song's beat, her favorite song being, Let Me Call You Sweetheart.
Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you. Let me hear you whisper that you love me too. Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you.
When she starts out, the sea is calm. By the afternoon, rain begins to fall. The wind reaches gale proportions, and she is now swimming through 20-foot waves. All ship crossings are canceled. At times, the water is so rough that for every yard she progresses, she is pushed back 2. Her coach and her father plead with her to stop.
How she ever survived these waves? You know, it started out calm, and then they hit storms, so I don't know how she survived that. She got lost. I mean, they couldn't even find her at times. And when they did catch up with her, they asked her if she wanted to get out.
They said, you want to come out, Trudy? I says, what for? That's what I came in for, to swim to get to the other side.
After being in the water for nearly 13 hours, she finally sees the cliffs of Dover.
And she was looking over towards England, and she couldn't see things too well. And she was getting a little bit tired, even though she had that stick-to-itiveness that she has. They lit bonfires at the base of the White Cliffs of Dover. And all these cliffs became illuminated in light. And she saw that, and that, she said, gave her extra power to get in there and finish that race.
At 9:40 that night, Gertrude Ederle steps onto the shores of Dover, completing the swim in 14 hours and 31 minutes, almost 2 hours faster than the previous record. Because of the severe weather conditions, she swam the equivalent of 35 miles to complete the 21-mile swim.
She gets to the shore, and there's her father in before her with the boat. "Don't touch me, Dad. Don't touch me, Pop." She used to say, "Let me get out of the water." She makes the swim. She's there. It's finalized. And some police officer comes over and asks her for a passport.
The next day, all of Dover is celebrating. 19-year-old Gertrude Ederle not only became the first woman to swim the English Channel, but she did it in a time faster than any man. With her record-breaking time, she proved that female athletes could compete in physically demanding sports and were not inferior to men.
I think the point about Gertrude was that she, like all champions, had such a desire and such a joy and a love for what she did that society's norms just didn't mean anything to her. She just rolled them over like a steamroller. And so I can't imagine what it was in those days, but when women are barely allowed out of the house alone, she was a maverick, in the biggest sense of the word.
A week later, she returns to New York City. The harbor is filled with ships sounding their horns to welcome her home. More than 2 million people attend a ticker-tape parade down Broadway to City Hall.
Well, she never expected all this fuss. And then when she gets back to America, the whole country went crazy over her. And she was the most surprised person. And if you see the pictures of that parade, it was even bigger than Lindbergh's parade. It was the roaring 20s. She just captured the imagination of the country.
What Gertrude Ederle did was even more amazing because she beat the men. That's what made her so very, very special and put her up on the pedestal with the Babe and Red Grange and Jack Dempsey and Bobby Jones and Bill Tilden. I mean, she could stand right there beside these guys. She beat the guys.
Later, Gertrude Ederle would learn the personal sacrifice she had made. Although her hearing was impaired since childhood, the cold waters of the English Channel would further damage it. 2 years later, she would become legally deaf. Newspapers hailed her as America's best girl, and her feat gave inspiration to women everywhere. Perhaps Gertrude Ederle said it best. The challenge wasn't just to swim the English Channel. It was also to prove that it could be done by a woman.
You never know if you can't succeed unless you make the effort to try.